You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello, this is Force 13 live, and we're entering another hour. Michael up to 85 miles per hour, a pressure of 970 millibars. A storm that continues to intensify. I'm here in the studio. My name's Nathan Foy. I'm here with you again for this hour, and so is the team that I'm joined by right now to talk about Michael and everything else that's out there at the moment, but the main feature of course will be that storm in the western Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico. Good evening everyone, how are you? Who's there?
Alright. Great.
It's sort of going into the abyss there when I'm asking who's there? Who's going to answer?
And for me, David, we're broadcasting live on Facebook, but Michael, well, it is deepening. And people have to be prepared and evacuate those regions. Florida, I've sighted one of the highways heading out of Florida, and the traffic is building. And congestion, I think so, but this is one serious system.
Also, David, you've confused everyone by posting in the chat room that it's our last hour. And people are asking what, for tonight or forever? No, well,
you can answer that one.
Let me tell you what the schedule is. You're
trying to get me into trouble.
Well, I'm going to get you out of it by telling everyone what the schedule is going to be. I have to do this every day, getting David out of trouble. So on my to-do list as a permanent fixture. We are finishing after this hour with the stream. We will be doing another update at 6 AM Gulf Standard Time on the Arabian Sea storm, and we'll be doing lots more Michael updates tomorrow, I expect. I'm not really sure what the actual schedule is going to be, but we're trying to stick to the schedule that we adopted during Hurricane Florence, in which we often did live events at 11 AM Eastern Time and again at 5 PM. We will try for that schedule if we can. So provisionally that's what we're going to be sticking to for tomorrow. We're going to start up at 11 AM and we will continue until about until the late evening.
And before Nathan continues, sorry if I'm going to interrupt, my posting was slightly deliberate because I wanted to hear from Nathan live what the schedule over the next several hours was going to be. So
well, if you don't know, you don't say, David, and we don't really know. But you know,
provided the updates.
We try to give as much notice as possible, and we put it out on our social platforms, on Facebook and Twitter, and on our YouTube page. Basically, we just keep it here. Now, normally, I mean, during Florence, we ran the 24-hour, 24/7 streaming service. We're not doing that overnight tonight, but we may be doing that overnight tomorrow night.
And I would like to relay some new information here from the recon plane.
Yeah.
Dropsound has confirmed a minimum pressure of 971 millibars from Hurricane Michael.
That's pretty much on par with what the NHC went with their 8 o'clock advisory.
Yeah, 970 they've gone with.
And Nathan, just wanted to ask the US members here in the studio, what do you say today's in the Tampa Bay and Florida regions?
I mean, still be on guard for at least some minimal impacts. It definitely looks like the worst areas to be hit right now are going to be the Panhandle and the Big Bend, but as I've been looking in the chat through the stream today, I've seen some people saying closer to the Keys and other areas along the western coast of the peninsula that they've been getting gusty conditions and some rain today. That even though this is a smaller storm compared to what we could otherwise see, land is pretty close to it around most quadrants. So even if it's a smaller storm, it's still impacting significant areas of land.
And Strad, I think there are marine warnings in place for the western side of Florida.
I think so. I don't have it up right now just to see it totally, though.
Let me see if I can find something on that.
Well, going over the warnings shortly again, there's a hurricane warning in effect for Alabama, Florida border into Swanee River, Florida, the Cuban provinces of Pinar del Rio. A hurricane watch is in effect for Alabama, Florida border to Mississippi, Alabama border. Tropical storm warning in effect for Alabama, Florida border into Mississippi / Alabama border. Swanee River, Florida to Howitska, Florida. I'm sorry, I can't say that. Cuban province of the Isle of Youth, and the coast of Mexico from Tulum to Cabo Catotsi, including Cozumel. And Nathan, if you want me to, I could read off some of the key messages here from the National Hurricane Center.
I think it'd be more useful to read out the hazards, the rainfall and the wind. Rainfall and the surge, sorry.
Yeah, as it says here, heavy rainfall from Michael could produce life-threatening flash flooding from Florida to Panhandle to the Big Bend region into portions of Georgia and South Carolina. Again, South Carolina could get some non-needed rain from this. I know people have been recovering from Florence. Sadly, this Michael seems to be wanting to dump around, I believe last I heard, 2 to 4 inches of rain perhaps in some regions that were affected by Florence, and obviously that is not needed at this time. Michael is also expected to produce heavy rainfall and flash flooding over portions of western Cuba and northeastern Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico during the next couple of days. And they go over about the hurricane warning and then about storm surge. Life-threatening storm surge is likely across portions of east coasts of the Florida Panhandle, Big Bend, and Nature Coast. And a storm surge warning is in effect for these areas. Residents in these areas should follow all advice given by their local officials, as per National Hurricane Center.
So that's the latest from them. And just to reiterate, the peak wind that they're expecting, 120 miles per hour?
It's 120 miles an hour, and I believe 115 miles per hour prior or nearing landfall, last I checked. So perhaps maybe landfall.
Said it's a major right up to landfall. A little concerning for those areas.
And I would also like to emphasize that I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Nathan, but I don't think people over in the Panhandle have seen a storm of potentially this magnitude since, I believe, Opal of 1995, if I'm not mistaken, Nathan.
Well, in the month of October.
Oh, yes, in the month of October. Please take the storm seriously. If you're under a mandatory evacuation, please evacuate. The officials are trying to save your lives here. If you stay, you risk your own life and the people who try to protect you's life, the storm responders. Also, you got to keep into mind, once those winds start hitting around 35, 40 miles per hour, usually what happened, at least they do it over here. I don't know about Florida, but I believe it's probably the same. Once the winds start reaching about 40 miles an hour, they shut off any bridges that go over the coastline or waters.
Yeah, I believe that happened during Matthew.
So if you are deciding to evacuate, you have to decide. I think you have probably till tomorrow, I believe, to pretty much decide to evacuate. And again, once those winds reach 40 miles an hour, you're pretty much stuck and either can ride it out at your home or ride it out at a local shelter if any are provided to you. So please take the storm seriously. This is not, going to be something to take lightly, certainly.
we're ready to take your questions, but before that, Tim?
Yes, Nathan. Even though Michael is still about 3-4 days out, it's actually a good time.
No, it's not. It's about 36 hours from landfall.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got my estimates off then. Well, 36 hours out. You still, for those in the area around the Florida Panhandle, you still have plenty of time to try to get your hurricane preparedness done. I have on my screen if Nathan sharing.
Yeah, we got it. Go ahead.
All right, this is from the National Hurricane Survival Initiative. It is a checklist that they recommend for those that are going to be in and around a hurricane conditioned area. Some of the key points that they cover is water, having at least 1 gallon per person per day. This has a 3-day supply of water per person. Quarts for drinking, 2 quarts for food preparation and sanitation. And that is very crucial considering what I experienced going through Florence. The second that any kind of watches or warnings were issued in the area, water flew off the shelf. So if you have not gotten stockpiled on water now is the time to do it.
Were there already stories about that?
I'm not entirely sure. I haven't kept on the news outlets down in that area. But in terms of water. Food, they suggest a 3-day supply of non-perishable. The key word there is non-perishable. Things that are in cans is going to be your best bet. If you lose power, make sure to have a hand crank can opener in case power does go out. That way, all your perishables in your refrigerator freezer will most likely go to waste. Does list some first aid, other non-prescription items, gauze and other items, some other tools and supplies. The big thing is anything dealing with your insurance, any legal documents such as deeds for any vehicles, homes. Make sure to put those in a waterproof plastic bag and put them up somewhere. That way, once this does blow through, you have it ready for emergency management officials if they need to identify your belongings, and for your insurance, which I'm pretty sure anybody going through this, you're going to have a claim. So make sure to have all that in a spot where it doesn't get ruined.
All right. Well, there is. Can you tell people how to find that page for more information?
Yeah, that is for more information on this. I know David linked it in the YouTube chat, but it is hurricanesafety.org /prepare/hurricane safety checklist.
Yep, I just posted it there in the chat again.
And that I can see is the National Hurricane Survival Initiative.
Yes, it is.
All right, very good. Thank you for that, and hopefully it's been of use.
You know, I think we haven't done this whole time. We haven't looked at the models at all.
No, we certainly haven't, and I did.
Do we want
sort of
to do that?
Yeah, why not?
Strat, do you want to do that, please? You're pretty good when it comes.
Right.
Yeah,
usually do
as good as good can be.
Well, usually we have Leighton covered, but I don't believe Leighton's on, so Strat's the next best thing we got.
Are you calling me second class?
Ouch.
The upper level outflow has gradually improved over Michael, but is still somewhat restricted over the western portion of the storm. There has been no significant change to the intensity forecast. Thinking the moderate shear that has been affecting the cyclone is not expected to prevent strengthening while Michael moves over the warm waters.
Yeah, but if you have
that's a current advisory, isn't it?
I think that's from 3 hours ago. Yeah. But here's the model. This is the GFS. This is the 18Z. Michael's down here in the Gulf.
We're struggling with that resolution, I'm afraid.
Ooh.
Isn't that bad? Hold up.
It is bad.
Oh, he's gone. Okay, then.
I'm fixing it.
That's better.
Oh,
yeah, much better.
He's fixed it.
Michael in the bottom left corner there. Leslie in the center of the screen.
Wait a minute. We've still got a black screen here.
No, we're right.
There we go.
Back.
It's appeared.
Okay. Michael bottom left. Leslie center of the screen. GFS run 18Z. Michael into the Big Bend area, Panhandle around 48 hours, so that would be around 2 p.m. on Wednesday is when they say landfall will happen. And it races off to the northeast, comes off the Carolina coast, and becomes a strong, powerful extratropical low. And then we have Leslie make landfall in Morocco.
Great. That is just fantastic.
And to take a look at some of the other solutions, let's go to the European model. This is a few hours older, but here we go. Euro landfall around the same time as the GFS. There you see 93 out develop as well. Leslie in the center of the screen. Euro takes Leslie a bit further south than the other models, and then it has a really close approach to Madeira, and then curve to the south and try to impact the Canaries while weakening. And then just for context, we'll look at the HWRF. This is what it's going to say for Michael. Let's get the right thing here.
We saw what's going to come of it.
HWR peaks it at 107 knots as it makes landfall.
Pretty much the NHC's solution then.
They don't weaken it before landfall, they intensify it going into landfall.
Well, it would, because the model can't see land coming.
And then it has to become an extratropical hurricane off the east coast.
Could do.
Maybe tropical storm force winds impacting Cape Cod out there. And maybe impacting Nova Scotia as well. And then let's see what the HWR says for Leslie. Here it is right here. Puts Leslie back as a hurricane, and then curves it follows kind of a similar path to the Euro. Just misses the landfall in Madeira. That's actually a Portuguese island there that they have control over, just like they have control of the Azores. A just miss of a landfall there. The H1 kind of rockets it off to the northeast, but the H1 says for Michael, I wanted to take a look just for us quickly. Has it weakened just before landfall, but has it right off the coast as a 106-knot storm. So we are looking at
a much more straight up landfall there, without the bend.
And just for context, let's also look into the Eastern Pacific. We'll start with Sergio. It's right here, right now. Still a hurricane, expected to weaken. Hit central Baja California, make landfall in Mexico, and then shoot off into New Mexico and Texas. And I want to look at the Arabian Sea, because I actually want to take a look at us for Leuven to see what it's looking like. Euro is what's become the consensus take. It kind of got this further ahead of the other ones, is that move to the west-northwest really, and then curve a bit to the west and miss Oman. And then it impacts Socotra maybe, and then potentially give effects to central Yemen as a rapidly weakening system. If you want to take a look for context, this is the HWRF model run for it. HWRF is further east, well, initially further east, but also weaker. It barely has it as a hurricane at one point, and then has it make landfall in eastern Yemen.
It's looking that way now, that it's only going to get to Category 1. Earlier on, like yesterday, we were talking about GFS of showing Category 3 out of this. Doesn't look like
anymore. We could take a look. Let me see if I can find just the models. No, they don't have the forecast models here, but the JTWC track calls for it to reach 65 knots only, but it's supposed to maintain that intensity for a while. But
sounds like uncertainty to me.
It is heading towards a very vulnerable area, though, unfortunately. You know, Yemen being a very poor country that's also embroiled in civil war, people there might not even know that this is coming towards them until after it arrives, even. So
not to mention it's a desert, too, so if all the rain that goes down, it causes massive flash flooding, as we saw at Makunu.
Yeah, this is just another unfortunate situation that we're going to end up seeing again. And in a country that's even less developed, more damage can happen.
Most of the population is in the western part of the country.
That's true. They're heavily focused around Aden. But in particular, northeast Yemen is where famines are actually starting up. So I would say they're the most vulnerable area.
Probably some of the most remote areas there as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting. Anything else?
No, that's gonna be all from Strat's report for now.
All from Strat HQ there. Okay, let's see what we're looking at on the latest from the Force 13's automated stream there. Just showing you Sergio over there in the Eastern Pacific, going to start to make its run towards the Baja California Peninsula. Looks innocuous enough at the minute. At its position near 130 degrees west. Not many of them slingshot back like this, but that's likely to do so. Models had that down about 10 days out, you know.
Yeah, I know. That was really good long-term forecasting by the models to get that.
And also, Invest 90B could also become a cyclone near India.
Isn't there a tropical cyclone formation alert out for it
Probably.
right now? I think there is. Let me head over to the JTWC website just to check that out.
These probabilities on your screen right now, we've not got round to updating them yet. Suffice to say, it's pretty much 100% now for Panama City and the Bend region of Florida.
Yeah, it's pretty set in stone at this point that the Panhandle is probably going, and the Big Bend are probably going to get the worst conditions from the storm at this point in time. But, you know, our job's really to keep track of the latest information and make sure we see how dangerous the storm actually ends up getting. Even though it's already a life-threatening storm to start with, it could get even worse.
Now, on recent imagery, we're still waiting for the completion of Michael's eye. And that is surely going to prevent it from getting beyond a certain intensity limit, even though we see it deepening right now. I mean, you know, this time of year, storms that progress up from the Caribbean to the sort of mid-latitudes end up with very low pressures. Storms like Opal, but to give an example from the Gulf, that is.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, things like Sandy. It's not going to get to Sandy proportions. It's not necessarily going to get to Opal proportions, but it is still going to be a very significant storm. Can anyone tell me how... does anyone remember what the CDPS score for Hermine was at landfall?
I think it was a 4 or a 3, but don't quote me on that.
Right. It'll probably be a lot more than that then on this one. Well, maybe a 5 or 6. Florence at landfall was a... Oh, I can't remember now if it was a 5 or a 6.
It's a Category 1 at landfall, but it was like 958 millibars.
I'm talking about the CDPS stage.
It was Category 1, but I believe Devon had Florence...
6 or 7.
No, not at landfall. It was a mid or high 5, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you might be right with that. So this could be something like that, but... You know, the storm surge is going to be huge for some of those areas.
It looks like the forecast shows potentially more severe storm surge than what we saw from Florence, and the geography of the area that it's going to be hitting definitely doesn't help because it acts as a funnel for water that's going to be coming in because it helps build it up into a certain area. When we had Florence coming in from the east into the North Carolina coast, you don't really have that same situation where water is able to pile up as easily, and that's why we didn't see completely catastrophic storm surge from Florence. But if we look at the current forecast from the National Hurricane Center, there's wide swaths of area that they say there could be over 9 feet of storm surge.
Up to 12.
And that's a major threat that we're going to see over a large area, 6 feet over an even larger area as well.
And that particular area, though, is quite sparsely populated. Fingers crossed for places further west, like Panama City, and maybe even Pensacola, because the storm could go that far west. The reason why we're particularly concerned about that, and we hope the storm goes east of there, is because if the storm goes west of those cities, then the storm surge will be there as well. And the strongest winds.
The turn to the west would put a lot more populated areas in harm's way than really that needs to be.
Yeah, it is notable to look at that. The National Hurricane Center, I was just looking at the automated streaming service, that the National Hurricane Center track is actually on the eastern end of the models, for the most part.
The eastern end?
Yeah, at least I think that was the 12Z ones, I think. It may have changed since then. Actually, it makes me curious. I want to go check out the models personally.
You just did.
That's true, but those were the 12Z ones that were on the stream. Right. I think based on the 18Z as well, the National Hurricane Center is still a bit on the eastern end.
Is Isaac still there?
I'm still here.
Do you have any more recon news?
Not at the moment. AF300 is about. AF300 is about to make a pass into it, and then maybe about an hour from now. And then a NOAA flight. I don't know what that one's doing.
NOAA 2 is actually going through center pass right now. About.
Oh yeah.
So we
should. They're coming in from the southeast.
Southeast actually looks to have more consistently strong flight level winds than we saw
about
on the northern side.
Oh dear.
We had multiple wind barbs of category
83
2 flight
knots.
level winds. Yeah, we actually had we had an 85 knot reading there actually from the southeast side.
So that would equate to about 75 or 73 ground level, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be curious to see if we get a lower pressure from the next drop zone that we go into the next pressure readings that we get from the plane.
For those who are able to see this satellite imagery right now in our chat room here, what do you make of the latest 1 minute imagery that we're looking at here? This loop covers a period of about 30 minutes.
I mean, the ice trying to come out, but there's like a dry slot fitting into it at the same time.
This is the most recent imagery you'll see on any live stream out there. This imagery at the latest there is about, actually quite a long time for us, 6 minutes old.
What time was that in UTC?
021.
Oh, I'm looking at the
usually we're up to about 4
one.
or 3 minutes, but never mind. 6 minutes old is that last image on here.
Yeah, if that convective burst on the west decides to move over to the east and kind of wrap itself around, this could get more concerning as if it wasn't enough. I mean, it certainly has a potential.
It does look like it's trying to, though. You see the convection trying to wrap around the southern side in the last few frames as well.
Really blowing up in the west.
Yeah, it's blowing up in the northwest side. It's the southeast eye wall, or southwest eye wall that we saw was open on the microwave earlier that Hank showed us. And it looks like, at least convection-wise, though, that it's trying to close it up. I don't know if we have newer microwave imagery, so we can't really tell for sure.
No.
But the storm looks like it could be shaping up to be something really dangerous.
Exactly.
It does look like it is trying to close itself off, and that is something that Hank had discussed the last hour. That if this does close off where it's at, not going to hold its structure as well, but if it gets a little bit further north of the Gulf and is able to close off, then it could really ramp up and make a run for those higher intensities that the NHC and that we've been talking about over the last hour.
Yes, indeed. So we'll keep switching back to that imagery every so often as we keep looking at the other systems out there too. Leslie and Sergio. Sergio's still trying. It looks like it's doing an eyewall replacement cycle.
Another one?
Another one.
As if it hasn't had enough already. That one's also expected to potentially be a flooding threat for Arizona and Texas, potentially later down the line, as well as Mexico, the mountainous terrain of Mexico.
And that's really not what they need, considering they just had, 19E go through that area just less than a week and a half ago?
And then before that, Rosa.
Mexico, but we were looking at the with Hank earlier on today. We were looking at the drought monitor, and a lot of the U.S. states down there still need the rain.
Yeah, they are fairly. I mean, it you got to keep in mind it's kind of like a deserty area, so I mean, they need it, but in a way they don't need it like in a rapid amount of time, as we saw with Rosa. If you get it in a fast amount of time, you could get that flash flooding sadly. and that can cost lives if people don't look out for it.
Questions. Do you think that Hurricane Michael will slightly weaken due to the dry air up to the west of the storm?
Probably not.
What will New York City get from Michael's remnants? Another question.
I think we've mentioned this brief hour, but people come in and out as the time goes on, so I'll probably just say it again. It depends on where the convection gets displaced to after the storm makes landfall. If convection gets displaced to the north and west of the storm, then New York and New England might see some rain and gusty winds. I know the Weather Prediction Center thinks we're going to get 1 to 2 inches of rain up here in New England for the most part.
Could be more. If the center goes right over, or the where the convection is, or whatever, it could be 4.
Because you also look at the official track there. It's further south of what a lot of the modelers are saying it'll come out from the Carolinas at as well. So. But what I was saying, if convection is displaced to the north and west, then it's more likely New England gets impacts. But if it's displaced to the south and east, then it's very likely that New York won't get impacts.
Yep. This is the latest from Force 13 Live, and you can see everything going by in a whirlwind here. Several storms active. A reminder of our schedule, we're finishing up here at the end of this hour. There will be another update on the cyclone in the Arabian Sea, Luban. That will be at 6 AM Gulf Standard Time. That's just an hour after we finish up. And also tomorrow, of course, we will have a lot more activity as well. I'm not sure exactly what the schedule is going to be because I'm actually not here for the first part of tomorrow, but I'm hoping to be back for a stream at 11 AM Eastern Time, which is in keeping with the regular schedule we had during Florence. Hopefully we can do that. If not, we'll of course let you know on our social platforms and on YouTube. We will certainly have one there in the evening as well, and updates in between, because it's a very busy situation, and we'll probably end up being... I don't know how it will go on Tuesday night, because we sort of reach a point where we're torn between either keeping you up to date all night or reserving ourselves for the next morning, because the storm's supposed to strike during the day on Wednesday. So yeah, the wonderful woes of not having enough people to fill in, but there we are.
Depends on what the viewers want to see, really.
The viewers want to be kept informed the best way they can, and it's up to us to do it. We do our best. But if there are any more questions, that's the most direct and probably, at times, the best way to get your answers immediately. There's another question that just came in. What do we think Michael's peak wind speed will be?
Right now, I think the NHC has it peaking at 115 or 120 miles per hour, just passing the threshold of major hurricane status.
Well, I think it might get to 130, personally.
Yeah, some people think it's going to get to Cat 4. Devin is very convinced that this will get a Category 5. I'm personally...
Well, I thought it was much more likely earlier today, but it strengthened too slowly during the course of today, I think.
Yeah. It could pull an opal and get to a Category 4.
Not that we wanted to get a Category 5, we're just being realists here, as much as possible.
I honestly think the NHC's estimate of Cat 3 is pretty well spot on, because it is going to leave that area of the high thermal energy that we were discussing last hour, and it's only going to be 40 to 60 joules.
I mean, yeah, when we're thinking about the timing, the way it's going at the minute, it's not strengthening quickly enough to justify a high-end Category 4 forecast anymore, I would say. So I would say low-end Category 4 at worst. But we've seen things like Harvey, haven't we?
Exactly. Harvey went from a low-end Cat 1 to a mid-range Category 4 in the same day, and intensified while it was making landfall at the same time. So you can't rule anything out.
Oh, well, I'm not saying it's not possible. The difference between Harvey and Michael, though, is Harvey had a few different ingredients and a few different variables in its favor than what Michael has right now.
I'll tell you one thing. I would say by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, it will probably have time to go up another category from what it is tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
I wouldn't argue that. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see maybe a 100, 105 cat, possibly.
Sorry to interject here. The recon just made a pass again. The lowest pressure that I'm seeing right now is 970.3 millibars flight level, and that's recon so far as of the NOAA 2 mission. The other mission hasn't quite got into the center yet.
They didn't get down to I don't think they got to the exact center though, because flight level winds were still over 10 knots. So it could be a bit lower than that, but it looks like
that's extrapolated, isn't it?
Strat, can I ask this question of you? Can you bring up the microwave? And what I'm interested in is the low-level circulation position.
Alright,
I'm curious about whether it made landfall on Cuba or not.
The microwave imagery that Hank showed earlier indicates that it could have possibly. Here, let me pull up the satellite, or the microwave.
And I think I've just been viewing a video. It's just become public.
Yeah. Here we go. If you look at the microwave here, it looks like it did make landfall over Cuba. Actually,
possible.
Because what happened yesterday was when the center got relocated, it went a bit further east than what some of us were expecting.
Yeah, it certainly did.
And that helped. I mean, if you look at this microwave imagery, it certainly looks like Michael made landfall over the very western tip of Cuba.
Strat, can you pause it on the Cuban?
It's not possible.
It's not. Okay. So the low-level circulation would be off the.
It's right in the center. It's right in the center of the eye wall, really.
And the strongest winds are in what quadrants?
Right now, Hank described this well, probably because it just went over Cuba. The north or northwest side is probably going to be the strongest temporarily. Northeast side will probably regain the being the strongest within the next few hours, probably.
What about south through the west?
I mean, southwest is probably the weakest because that's where you see a bit of a drier intrusion, and that's where the eye wall is open right now as well. At least as of an hour ago, the eye wall was open there.
And how often does this imagery get updated?
I mean, it comes in batches. Sometimes this will end up being a few hours out of date. This one is actually less than an hour out of date. The most recent image is from about 50 minutes ago.
That's pretty good for the microwave imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Nathan, I'll be right to say that the strongest area is the north through west to south.
North through west, I would go with. But by tomorrow morning, it will probably be the northeast.
And tomorrow morning, we say possibly a high range Cat 1 or Cat 2.
I'd be pleasantly surprised if it's not getting towards the high end of Cat 2 by tomorrow morning.
Right. Yep. But the threat remains, and people have to be prepared. They've got to consider evacuating, and if the evac orders are made, we know that there are 3 zones. I think it's A, B, and C. And
now, can we just clarify this? I thought Isaac earlier who said the whole county had been evacuated?
According to one of the local one of the local news stations over there, 3 of the counties have been under mandatory evacuation.
3 whole counties, or just areas in those counties?
They just said the county, so I'm assuming it's the entire thing, but it could be parts of the county that have been under mandatory.
It's not the Walton County, is it? I did cite a posting. I just can't find the posting, but It's just not.
It says Wakulla, Gulf, and Bay counties, and that's it.
Right. Okay then.
And that was as of 3 to 4 hours ago, so it may have changed.
Yeah, I'm not. I think, given how there's not that much time with this store, it's not a Florence. We don't have 10 days lead time. We've only got 36 hours lead time, really. Today has got to be the day where they've got to put out all of their emergency stuff, broadcasts, and such. And tomorrow, maybe a few that they weren't sure about today, but they really have to be sure about it tomorrow, don't they?
Nathan,
anyone who is evacuating, tomorrow morning, start early.
I have a question for Isaac or Strat. Indiana Task Force 1 has been activated. Any info on that?
What?
I don't know what that is.
What?
Indiana Task Force 1.
Is this a code word,
no
David?
idea what that is.
Well, I thought. Go on, Isaac.
Oh no, that was Tim.
Okay,
Tim,
I'm
can you
doing.
help?
Yeah, if you're referring to Indiana Task Force 1, that is the emergency responding program in and around the Marion County, Indiana area. It's right around Indianapolis. So they might be getting ready to mobilize ahead of Michael, but I would actually have to find some more information as to why they're getting ready to mobilize.
Okay, just on their Facebook page.
You have to send them a message, David.
21 minutes ago, there was a retreat from Wakefort, the UK Express.
Oh my.
Yeah, oh my. 16-member water rescue team will leave tomorrow. The exact destination's not known.
Yep, I'm actually looking at their Facebook page, and yes, Indiana Task Force 1, which is the area we were discussing, Marion County, Indianapolis area, has been activated, and they are on standby ahead of Hurricane Michael.
And just to reiterate, to iterate for the first time, actually, what is going on ahead of Michael, or behind Michael, depending on your perspective. There is a wave of warnings out in the central US today. There's severe thunderstorm watches, flash flood warnings in western Texas, and 2 tornado warnings right now in Iowa.
Nathan, National Weather Service has just put out a posting 38 minutes ago. Hurricane Michael isn't heading to any one town. There were warnings for more than 300 miles of coastline. It's forecast to be a large and dangerous hurricane at landfall. And they reinforced what the National Hurricane Center has said about life-threatening storm surge, damaging winds, and a flash flooding.
Yeah, well, when there could be up to 12 inches of rain in some areas and 12 feet of storm surge.
And have a look at that map. Or chart.
What map?
I just posted.
Well, that's no use to me.
No.
I'd also like to mention, according to the Tallahassee News over there, Bay County evacuation order will go into effect 6 a.m. Tuesday, and impact zones A, B, and C for Bay County evacuation. And again, it's going to go into effect at 6 a.m. Tuesday.
So again, can you clarify, that's some particular zones within that county or the whole county?
I believe it's the whole county, since they're saying A, B, and C, and I've only heard A, B, and C evacuation, so I'm assuming it's the entire county here that's being evacuated. And they're under a evacuation order that will go into effect again 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. In other words, tomorrow at 6 a.m. tomorrow. So for those of the people watching in there, just I'll let you know.
Population of over 180,000 in that particular county.
Speaking of those evacuation zones, I was actually able to find a map in and around the Bay County area that illustrates where those evacuation zones are. And I actually have it up on screen share at the moment.
Could you just tell us what the other counties were, Isaac?
The other counties were, again, according to 3 hours ago, Wakulla, Gulf, and Bay counties in Florida.
Right.
And can anybody bring up the National Weather Service radar for, I think it's BYX radar?
Oh yes, I did earlier,
You got
David.
that, and I believe you might be able to see the eye forming, but I note that there is a, I think it's a marine warning.
The eye is no longer visible on the radar, I'm afraid. On the long range.
Well, it's on the satellite.
You can barely make out the outer eye wall here and there, but other than that, that's it. It's out of range again.
And now you can see in real time. This is the fantastic glimpses that we get from the GOES 16 1-minute imagery there. A new convective flare-up just starting there in the last 10 minutes.
On the northeast section?
Yes.
By the dark red there, clearly visible.
So as we continue to look at that, we're 15 minutes from finishing up here. So if you've got any questions for us whilst we're still on the air, we've not been taken down yet. Good news. Send us a message. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. And when it pops up, we will answer any questions that you have, including any locations that you want us to look up for you, or give our hopefully useful advice on. We like to be useful as much as possible. We can't always achieve that because of the uncertainties around these hurricanes. And again, the biggest uncertainty point for this is how strong is it going to be. We generally rather know its track. We know that it's going to make landfall at or near Panama City. Could be a little bit east. Could even be a little bit west. It'd be worse, of course, if it did go west. And then off towards the northeast somewhere, towards the Carolinas, unfortunately. But
and that's
yeah,
all
I think
need.
the general, my message, I suppose, my personal opinion only, if by tomorrow morning, well, whatever category it is by tomorrow morning, I would say that it's probably only got time to do another category before it reaches its peak, unless it's rapidly intensifying in the process of tomorrow morning. No signs of that at the minute, but it is intensifying nonetheless and could be on its way to category 2 status.
Indeed. This is again a serious situation for the people of the Panhandle of Florida here. You haven't quite seen a storm of this magnitude in October since pretty much Opal of '95, if you guys remember that, for those older viewers who may be watching.
I remember tracking Opal.
You mean Tim, then?
I remember tracking Opal back in '95, and it was definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Out of everyone who appeared on our stream tonight, I was the third and last one to be born before that storm. Tim and David beat me to it, though.
And as stated near the start of the stream when you were running those little sidebar things showing who was talking, Tim has been tracking storms since before I was born.
Yes. You bet.
And that is actually true. My first storm that I tracked was Opal back in '95, and I was barely 10 years old, so...
That's when my parents met.
I'm sorry?
That's the year my parents met.
Excellent. Anyway, moving on. There was plenty of more questions. Okay, Spring Hill, Florida. That's just north of Tampa. What do we expect there? Maybe a 40-45% chance of tropical storm force winds, so I'd say tropical storm force gusts will occur there. It's just south of the main area of concern for storm surge, so I don't think that's going to be a particular issue in that area. Rainfall amounts could get up to, what, maybe 8 inches, maybe? If you're in one of those isolated pockets.
I think we looked at that area last hour with the storm surge map that we had up, and I think we were looking maybe 2, maybe 3 feet of storm surge on top of the rain in that area. So maybe a little bit of beach erosion, maybe slight localized flooding, but definitely something you still want to be prepared for.
I'd also like to direct the viewers to this link that I'm about to post in chat here. This is National Weather Service forecast for your general area. You can put in your zip code or city name on there, and you could get the exact conditions, what it'll be like in your area according to the National Weather Service. You can also go to hourly weather forecast for a more accurate depiction of what they expect to happen in your neck of the woods. So again, use that link if you want to find official info of what to be expected in your general region in terms of weather condition wise.
More questions here. Will it affect Georgia? Yes. Tropical storm force winds likely. Could even happen as far as Atlanta. Significant amounts of rainfall. Again, could be isolated amounts up to 12 inches maybe. Probably not, but could do in some isolated locations. But generally you're looking at maybe 4 to 8 as a maximum. Will the eye be visible soon? Well, it is visible. It is there. Displaced to the east of the convection in that image.
It does look like on the last frames here that it is starting to clear out and starting to become a little bit defined, but it still has to wrap that convection off the south side around itself for it to really define.
Yeah. But again, you've still got that gap on the eastern side now continuing to wrap around, but that gap is wrapping round ahead of it. But it does look, you know, with that convective burst and another one just on the other side of that little fracture, it looks like the eye might just be about to close.
Not good news.
No, it's not. Considering
it's sort of had a positive tone on the end of that. Sound like it's good. It's certainly not. Let's see here. What is Michael on the CDPS scale at the moment? The last update had it as a stage 3. It could be stage 4 by now. I'm not sure, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Based on the figures that we have in front of us, I'm going to go off a bit of a cliff with this, and I would probably agree with you, Nathan. I'd say easily a low to mid 4 on the CDPS right now, and if it gets its act together like the models are calling for, it's easily going to climb.
And the same question with Sergio has popped up as well. I have genuinely no idea. But with the storm down to 85 miles per hour and its movement very slow, its wind field fairly large, it may well be a 4 or a 5. I'm not sure though. That's just a mere guess. Obviously that is going to drop as it heads towards the land areas. It may only be a stage 2, maybe even a 1 by the time it gets there. Depends how strong it will be. But with a very fast speed movement, unless it still has a large wind field, of which it isn't particularly large at the minute, by the time it gets to the Baja California Peninsula, it will probably not be particularly destructive, except maybe in the areas under that landfall zone. Of course, precautions will have to be heeded once again for the second time in a few weeks.
Speaking of those precautions, Nathan, Isaac just linked the hurricane safety website that we discussed earlier in the hour. For those that any other tips or hints, you can go to hurricanesafety.org. The link is in the chat. Thank you again, Isaac, for linking that.
You're welcome. I encourage everyone who is in the path of this hurricane to look at the link I have just provided in there in chat and the link above that. for information you may want to know about your general location if you're wondering about your what you're going to be experiencing with this storm.
And just quickly, because we're about to close out the hour now, maybe we want to talk a little bit about Leslie.
Oh, Leslie, the little engine that could this hurricane season.
So we had a question, how is Leslie looking? If no one can bring it to us, then I'll go and get it myself on this imagery. As soon as I know where to go. This might take a little while.
And Nathan, a quick question from a viewer on Facebook. When's landfall expected?
I think Tuesday.
No, Wednesday.
Tuesday? Oh, Wednesday. Oh, I was looking at the wrong graphic. I'm sorry.
I think Strat had it timed out by the models. Wednesday
morning
afternoon
to afternoon, depends. I don't know yet.
Midday Wednesday is the most likely time right now, it seems, unless something significant happens to change that.
And that's actually probably the most favorable for those that are going to be in the landfall area. Just the simple fact that you can actually see what's going on. I know it's going to be a very long-lived event once it goes through, kind of like how it went through with Florence. But being a landfall during the day is a little bit more preferable than a nighttime landfall because you really can't see what's going on in and around your area.
Here's a little look at Leslie, as much as we can see it there. Yeah, not looking too bad. Could get back to hurricane status soon. And that storm has been going for how long?
I think 12 or 13 days.
Oh,
longer than it should have been.
A lot more than that.
Yes.
About,
I
think it
no
might
idea.
be 16 or 17 days by now.
Doesn't it have some of the I guess some parts of Florence in it?
Don't say that.
That's just sacrilege to say that.
Oh, going on a recon, it's probably going to be updated by the time we're off air, but recon is
Right.
the AF 300 mission, the lower level mission, is starting to go into the storm, but like I said, it's probably going to be in the eye wall by the time we're off air, sadly.
Damn it. Oh well, we've not got our timings quite right, but if anything strange happens, then I'm sure someone will be around to provide an update at 11 PM Eastern if something strange happens. Right, gang?
Right.
Because unfortunately, I won't be able to. That's another look at Leslie there. Let's just go back and look at Michael. There's another recent image. Just to get the track maps up, we're just about to wrap up here. There's the latest track map for Michael. Major hurricane landfall expected. Tropical storm warning down almost halfway across Florida there, and tropical storm watch up to the edge of Mississippi. And you can see where the track's expected to take it across central Georgia into the Carolinas, I'm afraid, yet again, and then off towards the northeast. Here's the track forecast for Leslie. Could reach hurricane status again. It's being forecasted by the NHC, and goodness knows where it's going by the weekend. But it's looking less likely that the storm will have a round 3 and shift towards the south again. It will probably be dying over there somewhere towards Portugal. We still can't rule out a tropical landfall on Portuguese territory at the moment, whether that be one of its islands or,
Wow.
God forbid, the
And
mainland.
according to the DFS, we can't rule out Morocco either.
God. And here's Sergio moving off towards Mexico. Could be a tropical storm by the time it gets there, just to swing us back again, all the way back, further. This is Cyclone Luban and its forecast track, and you can see what's expected of that. It's not looking that great on the satellite imagery, but it could still reach hurricane equivalent status. It's still moving south of forecast. The threat to Oman is decreasing on that one. We'll have an update on that in just over an hour on the Force 13 channel. One of the many reasons why you should subscribe for the latest, because that's what we're going to be doing next. In an hour's time, video will magically appear on the channel page, and you'll be able to watch it, and hopefully it will be of much use, and that's what half of our time is spent doing behind the scenes, researching and updating numbers and graphics and all kinds of things. We'll be back streaming again tomorrow, guys. It's been a pleasure having you on the team with us here tonight. Any final thoughts?
Wonderful.
Always a pleasure, Nate. Go ahead.
Please take the storm seriously. Look at the links that I have provided in chat and the ones before that for vital information. Tropical storm force conditions expected to be arriving in the Panhandle around 8 p.m. Tomorrow evening. Yeah, 8 p.m. tomorrow, according to National Hurricane Center. Around 8 p.m. Tropical storm force conditions to be felt, possibly. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what you said, Isaac, for those in the Florida area, if you saw how North Carolina handled Florence, let that be your lesson. Definitely, if they tell you to evacuate, do evacuate. If you're going to write it out, hopefully don't. But have a plan, be prepared, and let's just hope everybody makes it out unscathed, because this could be by far similar to Opal that we saw 23 years ago. So if anybody's was around during Opal, then you got the extra knowledge that you need to be prepared for this storm.
Well, I sort of set people up too prematurely there because we've gone over time. Anyway, that's all from us for now. The live stream is terminating. We will be back again during the day tomorrow. Don't know exactly when. We're hoping for 11 a.m. Eastern. But that's all from us for now. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Good night.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.